Hey there everybody, Sajah Popham here, founder of Organic Unity and the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. And so the other day I threw my back out pretty bad. Been seeing a chiropractor and basically he said I've got a slipped disc in my lower back and I've been in a lot of pain lately and been kind of having a hard time with it. And I was thinking about it, and I thought I would shoot a little video on you for you here on herbs and pain. You know, a lot of people tend to think that, oh, well, you know, herbs are kind of cute when it comes to pain, but really it's the drugs that work well. They're the heavier hitters. You know, you can't really do that much for pain with herbs. And that's actually really not true. And in my opinion, I actually think we have the upper hand as herbalists than a lot of doctors do with the pain, with their drugs and prescriptions rather. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about kind of an herbal approach to treating pain, some of the critical herbal actions that we use for pain, as well as sharing a couple plant examples in regards to herbs that are good for pain. So one thing that pain can do is it can really kind of dominate your consciousness and make it a little bit hard to think clearly. So stick with me here and I'll share some good stuff with you here. So, so one of the main things about drugs for pain, pretty much what they got is they got opiates, right? And a whole bunch of different types of opiates, but ultimately they have the similar structure and similar effect working through the opioid pathways in the brain and basically distancing your consciousness from the pain, basically making you feel so stoned that the pain doesn't matter, or it feels very distant. It doesn't necessarily take the pain away so much as kind of remove you from your body. And this would be all types of drugs that ultimately were developed out of Papaver somniferum, or the opium poppy. You know, we've got the older forms of that being something like laudanum. In our modern day, things like oxycodone, oxycontin, morphine, things like that, that certainly are effective for distancing you from the pain, but they have the unfortunate side effect of being horrendously, horribly addictive. You know, we're basically talking about pharmaceutical heroin for the most part. You know, I mean, I know that sounds really strong, but it is kind of true. And so I think with our herbal medicines, we have a much broader range of plant actions that we can do for pain. Now, obviously, we have over-the-counter anti-inflammatory drugs. I should mention those. Your ibuprofen, your aspirin, and things like that. Even though they're over-the-counter, they are very, very powerful, very strong drugs that are truly anti-inflammatory. Like, they turn off the inflammatory pathways very high up in that biochemical cascade. Whereas our herbal anti-inflammatories are really more inflammation modulators. They don't turn off inflammation, they just kind of adjust it here and there, usually lower down in that biochemical cascade. And then of course there's the very strong cortisone type drugs that also directly shut off inflammation as well through a very different and very dangerous mechanism. But our herbs, while being more gentle, have a broader range of action, I would say, than a lot of over-the-counter or prescription drugs can do. So some of the main herbal actions that we see being used for pain, the top one here being what we call an anodyne. And anodyne, or we could also say analgesic, these are basically herbs that are used for pain, go figure. But anodyne basically means pain relieving. Like many herbal actions, this is very vague. When you look up anodynes in your Materia Medica, you'll see all sorts of different kinds of herbs based on how they relieve pain. So I tend to like to break down the anodyne category into more specific kind of secondary actions or sub-actions that those plants will have. So you can kind of get a sense for what type of pain that herb is going to be specific for, and what types of effects you can expect from that plant. So the different types of anodynes that I tend to think of, first we have our anti-spasmodics, and you'll also see the term spasmolytic, but this type of herb basically relaxes tension in the musculoskeletal system. So they're commonly used for cramping, uterine cramping, gallbladder spasm, digestive spasm, constriction in the respiratory tract, like in an asthma attack. But they basically relax over-tonified muscles that are too tight. They're kind of wound up too tight. Those antispasmodics help to relax and reduce spasm in the muscles. And some of my favorite herbs in the antispasmodic category, specifically here in the context of musculoskeletal pain, thinking about my back, we have here my top number one is black cohosh. This is Simicifuga racemosa. A lot of people think of black cohosh as a women's herb. It's just not true. The reason it gets pigeonholed into that category is because, let's face it, women tend to have spasm on a more consistent basis than men do with the menstrual cycle. And it is a wonderful emmenagogue and antispasmodic for uterine cramping, but we can use black cohosh for all manner of cramping. You can put it in a respiratory formula for asthma attacks. You can put it in a gallbladder formula for gallbladder spasm. You can put it in all different types of formulas for all different types of spasms. Really wonderful remedy there. My second top there is Lobelia inflata. Lobelia is, in my opinion, kind of the chief antispasmodic. It's just a brilliant herb. It has so many different properties and uses, but at its core, it is a critical antispasmodic. A couple specific indications differentiating those two, thinking of like car accidents, I say Lobelia is really specific for muscle issues where there's torsion, like twisting sensations, whereas black cohosh is more like whiplash. And you see that if you ever see black cohosh blowing in the wind, it kind of goes, the flower stalk kind of goes like this. It makes that whiplashing motion there. Those are two great antispasmodics. My third very favorite herb these days that I love, it grows in my local area here in Southern Oregon, is Pedicularis. A lot of people call these American betony. I don't really like calling it betony because people get confused with the wood betony, which is the European stackies in the mint family. Very different plant. The Pedicularis genus is, these are high alpine, for the most part, high alpine meadow growing plants. These would be common names like elephant's head, parrot's beak, Indian warrior. The latter, Indian warrior, Pedicularis densiflora, is the main one I work with. It grows a little lower down in the valley where I live here. Wonderful, wonderful antispasmodics. Pretty strong. Like, I have a buddy over at Oshala Farms where he takes like 3 drops of Pedicularis and he's just laid out on the ground, like done. Every muscle just relaxes and gets really heavy, and he gets quite sedated from it. This is one of those plants that, you know, if you take enough of it, you kind of feel a little stoned from it, which if you're in a lot of pain, that's kind of a good thing, honestly. But what we're seeing is a very distinct antispasmodic property with the Pedicularis that is quite distinct and powerful. And with that herb, that kind of leads into the next category, which kind of juxtaposes with antispasmodics pretty well. And these would be the Nervine Hypnotics. Now, not all antispasmodics are necessarily hypnotic, but most of our hypnotics are antispasmodic. So the Nervine Hypnotics are the more stronger acting nervous system sedatives. These are remedies, as the name implies, hypnotic, do I would say, adjust your consciousness slightly into a place of sedation, and you can feel tired from them for sure if you take enough. These would be our stronger nervines. Like the top 3 in Western herbalism would be like passion flower, hops, valerian. Those are 3 very potent, powerful Nervine Hypnotics, very, very sedative for the nerves, and in that way can be very beneficial for pain. They also have distinct anti-spasmodic properties as well. So those are really great remedies to work with for pain. But my top 3 that I really like here that are very specifically anodyne. These are Nervine Hypnotics, but that are especially anodyne in property. I'll write them down here. We've got Pisidia, which is Jamaican dogwood. And Jamaican dogwood is, in my opinion, probably one of the best anodyne pain relieving remedies. It does promote a very distinct central nervous system sedation. It relaxes smooth and skeletal muscles, and really helps to kind of numb the pain response so that it's more tolerable. So Pisidia, wonderful remedy there. The other one of my favorite Latin names because it has 6 consonants in a row, which is rare. Eschscholtzia californica, which is California poppy. Just to be clear, this plant does not have morphine or opiate-like compounds in it like the opium poppy, papaver somniferum. The California poppy works a little differently. It does still have alkaloids in it. Again, very distinct nervous system sedation, calming, relaxing, anti-spasmodic, and very, very pain relieving. Wonderful remedy there. I use those 2 a lot. And so we have Jamaican dogwood, we've got California poppy, and my other favorite one that actually is quite specific for lower back pain is Lactuca. That would be Lactuca virosa or Lactuca scariola. That's a wild lettuce. And I don't know if you're not familiar with wild lettuce, it's a really cool plant. When you break the stem of the plant, it exudes this white latex that's pretty distinctly bitter in flavor, and that is slightly reminiscent of the white latex exuded from the opium poppy. It has a very different biochemical profile than opium poppy, but nonetheless, it is very distinctly sedative, hypnotic, anti-spasmodic, and anodyne pain relieving. In the old days, they used to make a preparation called lactarium, which was, they would take the latex from the wild lettuce and just extract the latex. A very, very, I would imagine, time-consuming process, but very, very powerful. Lactuca generally needs to be prepared fresh, always fresh, and you need to make a pretty concentrated extract of it. When I prepare Lactuca spagirically, I typically run it through a sock slit extraction, doing approximately a 1 to 2 potency through a sock slit extraction of the fresh plant material in a high proof alcohol. Then I take that plant material and cook it down to a very concentrated decoction, and then combine the 2 together to create a very potent water and alcohol extract of wild lettuce that is quite potent and quite effective in the treatment of pain. So those are 3 really, really awesome remedies for treating musculoskeletal pain, but any manner of pain is really quite helpful. Now, under the Nervine category, we do have 2 herbs that are very specific for nerve pain. And nerve pain typically is a lot of dental pain is related to the nervous system. A lot of earache and ear pain can be nerve related. But then kind of throughout more musculoskeletal kind of looking at things, the nerve pain is like a sharp shooting pain where the pain runs down a very certain pathway that you can almost trace. Our 2 big remedies there for nerve pain are Hypericum, which is St. John's wort. That's a critical specific remedy for nerve pain. It's the top in my opinion. And the way I was taught by Matthew Wood, he says if you use Hypericum for nerve pain and it doesn't work, then he said use Xanthoxylum. I'm using Latin names here because I'm trying to do that more. Xanthoxylum, that's prickly ash. It's a really cool remedy. It kind of has that tingling sensation like echinacea does. The tincture of prickly ash bark. The diffusive remedy that works kind of at that juncture between the nervous system and the circulatory system. So it stimulates circulation, but it also works through the nerves as well. Those are our two critical nerve pain remedies. Really, really awesome, very, very effective, and I use them a lot in formula together. So there's a couple categories: anti-spasmodics, Nervine Hypnotics, and a couple just quick remedies there. Obviously, when I'm not trying to go into a whole lot of depth on each remedy because that would take forever. Usually when I go in depth on a single remedy, like in my Materia Medica monthly program, I'll spend up to 3 hours just on one herb. So I'm just sharing some quick remedies here that are very effective. Of course, use these remedies within a holistic context. Always look at the energetics of the herb, hot, cold, wet, dry, etc., and make sure it matches the constitution of your person that you're working with. That's a critical thing in vitalist holistic herbalism that always has to be overlooked. That can't be overlooked. I'm mixing up my words over here. Next, we have inflammation modulators. I'm just going to go mod. These would be plants that have a pretty potent impact and influence on adjusting the body's inflammatory processes. I don't really like calling herbs anti-inflammatory because they don't really work quite like that. They tend to more moderate and modulate inflammation rather than totally turn it off. Of course, the top one these days is Curcuma, which is turmeric. That herb, you know, it's like, I can almost call it an anti-inflammatory. It is so strong. As I was mentioning, humoral energetics, you have to be aware, curcuma is a very dry plant. It's a very warming plant. So people that have a lot of dryness in their system, it is pretty contraindicated there. But you can combine it with equal parts glycyrrhiza, which is licorice, which is a wonderful moistening remedy that is also pretty potently anti-inflammatory. And I say anti-inflammatory there very specifically. These two, I think, are very, probably the closest examples in the herb world of anti-inflammatory that we can get. Very, very wonderful pair. It's energetically balanced in terms of hot, cold, wet, and dry. And the licorice makes the turmeric taste a little bit better. That dryness can really get to people after a while. So those are a couple really great herbs to consider for modulation of the inflammatory process. The other action that is one that can be considered, it depends on what type of pain it is, but diuretics can also be used for pain, specifically like damp type pain, swollen, puffy, swollen arthritic joints. Anytime there's damp accumulation in a tissue, a diuretic can be very helpful there. One of the classic ones used in European herbalism is Apium graveolens, which is celery seed. Celery seed's a great circulatory stimulant as well as diuretic, and say it helps with breaking down kind of calcareous deposits and things like that. But it's a really wonderful diuretic, circulatory stimulant. The other one that I think of here is Urtica, which is nettle leaf. Also has some nice inflammation modulating properties, but is also a wonderful diuretic. Plus, with Urtica, you're getting all of the nutritive factors, all of the minerals that are going to help to strengthen and nourish all of the connective tissue and the muscles. Urtica is really great for muscle pain, especially like weak, atrophied muscles, because it's so rich in protein and amino acids. It helps to rebuild and strengthen muscular tissue. And next, I would say connective tissue tonics Urtica would definitely fall under that category, but these would be herbs that just strengthen connective tissue through minerals, through nutritive constituents, or through other means. My top one here is Solomon's seal. I always mix up the Latin name. I don't remember if it's Polygonum or Polygonatum. Post in the comment section below, let me know. I always mix them up. But Solomon's seal, wonderful. This is like the coolest herb for connective tissue replenishing. I love it. It works very, very well. It's great too because it's a moistening remedy. So it's great for hydrating the tissues and the joints and the connective tissue, really strengthening up those tissues there. Centella is Go-To Cola. That's a wonderful connective tissue tonic. It has astringent properties and of course has a very mild nervine sedative property. Most people use it more as a nootropic to kind of stimulate cognitive function and memory and things like that. But Centella is a great remedy to consider for replenishing connective tissue, as well as Equisetum, which is horsetail. Horsetail loaded with minerals, magnesium, calcium, and of course silica, which is one of the major building blocks of bone, teeth, hair, skin, nails, connective tissue, tendons, ligaments, cartilage. All of those structural components need silica, which Equisetum is very high in. So these are just some general categories of herbal actions and some examples of herbs that you might consider using for pain. And of course we've got topical application of herbs, which should not be overlooked in this case. One of the main ones that I really like here would be capsicum or cayenne pepper. This is an awesome remedy. There is a very unique biochemical thing going on with cayenne for pain in the way it not only is increasing local circulation, so it's driving blood into the local area, but it's also draining the local area of what they call substance P. Now this is probably one of the, I think it's kind of one of the silliest names for a biochemical substance because they're usually really complex and make you sound really smart and technical, and this one's called substance P. But substance P is related to the pain response, and cayenne drains the local area of substance P so the pain goes away. Now of course it burns for a little bit, but if you got chronic pain, you're usually pretty willing to have a burning sensation for like 15 minutes if it's going to provide hours of relief on the other side of that. I also like Urtica topically. This is the old school method where you just take the fresh leaf and whip the afflicted part. Again, like cayenne, it kind of hurts and tingles and stings for a while, but it does provide a pretty good amount of relief, sometimes for days after the treatment. Now, of course, you can't do that all the time. You have to have some nettles growing where you live, and it, you know, it has to be spring or early summer so you can use the fresh leaf. But that is, well, for that purpose, actually, you could use it at any stage. But Urtica is a really wonderful remedy there. We also have, I would say, Mentha Peppermint. A lot of people prefer like the menthol crystals. I'm sure you're aware of menthol crystals, right? It's like what's in Tiger Balm and stuff like that. Works really, really well though. Again, driving, promoting local circulation, etc. So it's just a couple topical agents there. For more the relief side, Symphytum is really, really good there. Comfrey, again, to strengthen the connective tissue, the bones, tendons, and ligaments. Hypericum, St. John's wort, again here, specifically for any type of nerve pain, sharp shooting running pains down a very specific pathway. That Hypericum can be used topically as well. So again, when addressing pain, it's very important to look at what is the underlying tissue state. Is it very hot? Is it cold? Is it damp, swollen, and puffy? Is it really dry and weak and emaciated? Is it overly relaxed and kind of atonic, or is it really tense and tight and taut and spasmodic? So you want to consider those underlying tissue states as well as the constitution of the person, and make sure your remedies match that. So, because otherwise you might aggravate the problem, which you obviously don't want to do. And of course, from a holistic perspective, a true vitalist herbalist doesn't just give herbs. We always look at lifestyle factors, right? And dietary factors. So eating an anti-inflammatory diet is really helpful. I generally recommend people try to avoid a lot of dairy or grains, especially gluten, can really flare up inflammation big time. Body work, critical. Herbs don't have hands. So, it's really good to get that hands-on body work to get things adjusted, but also not being dependent on body work, right? That this is what I've been learning lately. It's like one thing to go see a chiropractor, massage therapist, and to hope and expect that that's going to fix your problem, but that's only half the battle. That it really comes down to us, right? And our posture, how we carry ourselves, whether we're strengthening our body, whether we're doing whatever it is we can, exercises, stretching, yoga, whatever it might be, to strengthen our physical frame so that we carry ourselves in a different way and are less prone to hurting ourselves. So that is a little bit on herbs and pain. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're not watching this on my blog, be sure to head over to evolutionaryherbalism.com. Tons of videos and free mini courses over there for you to go deeper into your understanding and practice in the art of true holistic herbalism. Do me a favor, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you know someone that is into plants and natural healing, hit the share button, share it with someone you know. Scroll down, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. If you got any questions, any comments, or your own experience in using herbs for pain or holistic therapeutic approaches for pain, I'd love to hear about it. So scroll down, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And thanks so much for taking the time to check out this video. And until next time, take care and be well.